This program is being brought to you by Young's Welding. For your truck accessory, gateway, or all your other welding needs, be sure to call Young's Welding at 936-544-7432.
Session, would you please stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I, the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Would you please remain standing for prayer?
Oh, gracious Father, once again we come to bow our heads and humble heart, thanking you for your many blessings. Oh, Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for enabling us to assemble here to take care of the business of the faculty and the students. Oh, Heavenly Father, we ask you to enable us to make the right decisions. Oh, Heavenly Father, I ask all these blessings in the blood of Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, we're down to item 4. No, there's none. Recognize joint meeting with the City Council.
I'd like to call the meeting for the City Council of Crockett to order. The time is 6:10, and we're going to go to item number 3. Consider and approve action to authorize purchase and sale agreement with Crockett Independent School District for Crockett State School property and CISD transportation facility.
Okay, I believe Ms. Wheeler will take us.
Okay, item 5, consider and possible action to authorize purchase and sale agreement with City of Crockett related to Juvenile Justice Center and former transportation facility.
Ms. Wheeler, members of the board, and of course the mayor and members of the city council, we have for your consideration tonight a resolution that will actually memorialize and give the superintendent of schools at Crockett ISD the ability to go ahead and negotiate this sale and a purchase of the property. That's the juvenile justice facility. Because of all the legal ramifications, obviously, of transferring these pieces of property, and because of the age of these two pieces of property, there seems to be little in the way of titles, at least for one of the property, or a deed for a piece of the property that we have, and we can't find any title insurance, any title policy that has been put on the facility over here that we're purchasing from you guys in a long time, and so we feel a need to go ahead and move forward with those two steps so we can get good deeds, warranty deeds, and title policies in place so that everybody's interests are protected. I feel very, very uncomfortable as a superintendent of schools and would not recommend to this board or to the city council or the mayor that we proceed with this with every T crossed and every I dotted from a legal perspective, because we are transferring funds here. As Hollywood so eloquently brought to everybody's attention, the public is watching and they want to know that everybody's interests are being served here. And in in the shadow of all of that coming along here, we need to make sure as two entities here in the public that we indeed are letting everybody know that we're doing this above board and that everything is taken care of the way we said it was going to be taken care of. And so I visited with Mr. Angerstein, the city manager, about the legal ramifications of some of the stuff we're doing. I know our legal here at the district, I thought I saw Bill come in. Did I see Mr. Crimmins tonight? He is in communication with the school lawyers. We're trying to make sure that everything is put into order so that both our interests are served very, very well. And that there is transparency and there is clarity to what we're doing out here. And so at this point, I want to read to you if that's okay with you, Ms. We're going to want to read this resolution so that basically we're going to memorialize the deal that we are interested in the property that indeed we have agreed upon a purchase price, and that as soon as all of the legal and everything is in order, indeed we will be able to call another meeting, perhaps another joint meeting with the council and the board, and be able to finalize the entire purchase agreement. So I'll read this resolution to everybody. It says, Board Resolution of Crockett Independent School District to purchase and sell property from and to the city of Crockett. Whereas pursuant to Texas Education Code 11.151, the board is authorized to acquire and hold real property and to receive bequests and donations and to, in any appropriate manner, dispose of surplus property that is no longer necessary for the operation of the district. And whereas the city holds the title to 2 tracts of land, Tract 1, 69.659 acres, and Tract 2, 1.097 acres, and improvements known as the Juvenile Justice Center, or former Juvenile Justice Center, further described in Exhibit A, which is a deed to that property, a warranty deed that was supplied to us by the city. And it is attached to this particular, or will be attached to this particular resolution. Whereas the city of Crockett, the city or the grantor, has offered to sell the property to the Crockett Independent School District, also known as the district or the grantee. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the Crockett Independent School District, the board has deemed it advisable and in the best interest of the district to acquire these additional school facilities and site improvements, which would be Exhibit A, in order to provide essential services for students in Crockett ISD. And whereas the board has further determined that the property is foreseeably necessary to advance and to meet the educational needs of students in Crockett ISD, and whereas the board desires to accept the city's conveyance of the property, again, Exhibit A, subject to certain restrictions that are intended and deemed to be covenants running with the land and binding upon the grantor, more particularly described in Exhibit A, that is referring to the fact that this is a GLO property, and that, you know, they can grant it to us, but if we ever decide not to continue to use it in an educational manner, it has to go back to them. That's what that's referring to. Whereas pursuant to Texas Local Government Code 272.001, the district may excuse me, donate or sell for less than fair market value and without complying with the notice and bidding requirements a designated parcel of land or an interest in real property to another political subdivision if the land or interest will be used by that political subdivision to which it is donated or sold in carrying out a purpose that benefits the public interest of donating or selling district. The donation or sale of the land or interest is made under terms that affect and maintain public purpose for which the donation or sale is made, and the title and right to the possession of land or interest revert to the donating or selling district if the acquiring political subdivision ceases to use the land and or interest in carrying out the public purpose. That again, for the piece of land that goes to the city, it will revert back to the school if the city ever decided not to use it. So kind of we're swapping pieces of revertible property here, if you will. Whereas the board holds title to and or will secure title to 2 tracts of land, 1.562 acres and tract 2, 0.352 acres of land and improvements known as the transportation facility, further described in Exhibit B, which will be completed as soon as we have those 2 title searches done. Whereas the board has determined that the transportation facility is surplus property after this sale. Whereas the district intends to convey the property and improvements described in Exhibit B and to pay the city of Crockett an additional amount for the property. And whereas pursuant to the Texas Education Code 11.156, it is in the best interest of the district to proceed with this resolution to purchase and sell real property from and to the city of Crockett and to acquire any and all interest owned in the property as described in Exhibit A. There again, back to the title searches that we must provide for each of the 2 entities. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Crockett Independent School District that Section 1, the facts and recitations contained in the preamble of this resolution are hereby declared to be true and correct. Section 2, the district determines that the above described acquisition will provide a significant public benefit and that this transaction does not influence or appear to influence the board in the performance of its duties. Section 3, the board delegates to the superintendent the authority to approve the form and content of deeds and arrangements related to this transaction. And Section 4, The board authorizes the superintendent or the superintendent's designee to take any and all necessary and appropriate action to execute and carry out the foregoing, including entering into the above referenced agreement to pay or cause to be paid all expenses and all such other actions as deemed necessary, desirable, advisable, or appropriate to consummate, effectuate, or further the transactions contemplated by the intent and purposes of the foregoing. Let me take a deep breath. And this resolution shall be effective immediately upon adoption. Are there any questions from any of the board members before? I'm not really sure. I'm not going horse here. So. I do believe, Ms. Wheeler and members of the board, that this fully explains our purposes for purchasing this and the process that has to take place prior to us actually finalizing the agreement.
And how long will it take us to get these new policies in place?
Well, being the end of the year, I talked to Mr. Angerstein about that today, and John and I talked about it will probably be at least January the 8th if we did this really, really well. That's when we come back from the Christmas holidays. However, being in December and trying to get title companies and banks and transfer of funds to take place, I'm going to suspect it's going to be around February the 1st. I think it will probably be the January board meeting before all the T's can be crossed and the I's can be dotted, and we can assume, the actual ownership of the property. And I know this puts the city in a little bit of a, you're stretched out a little bit here, a couple more months than you were wanting to be, because I know you have insurances over there, as we will have. I know you have a maintenance worker. I also know you have the light bill running over there, and but there's no way that we can avoid making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And so legally, we have to go through this. And I've asked Mr. Powell from Powell and Leon, our attorneys, to get with Mr. Pemberton, and I'm sure that the two of them will facilitate this as quickly as possible. And if need be, I could ask this board, and you could ask the council to hold a special session if we needed to, or a special board meeting to finalize this if we get it done prior to that time.
And another date.
Right.
As quick as we can get all the title work done, which takes time, but yeah.
Right, and we will certainly assume our burden. We will maintain, in the meantime, we will maintain all the necessary insurances and title policies and everything on what we have, and during the interim time that we'll be in the transportation facility, giving us, I believe, about a 6-month period built into that agreement, so that we'll have time to move out. But ultimately, we will maintain all the coverage, insurance and liability wise, as you guys will have to, until we can assume ownership of the actual facility itself.
Well, John Angerstein, city manager, my only request is that if these documents are able to be prepared sooner and completed, we would ask that we can meet sooner than possible. This is an unbudgeted item, so at our next board meeting, we're going to have to approve further expenditures on maintenance and insurance policies as well. And I have one other comment about the resolution. From what I understand here, it says tracks 1 and 2.
Right?
Unless I'm mistaken, and it'll have to be further clarified, I believe track 2, there's approximately 1 acre that's across the road, which is being occupied by the Texas Forest Service.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, this track 2 is about the same acreage, so I would like clarification on that.
Because we don't want to put them out of business.
The council has actually approved already to donate the property to the Texas Forest Service.
That would be no problem, obviously, with this board. We'll work that out.
As long as it's understood that
Across the farm market road.
on the right-hand side.
Right there where they are, right here. Right?
So in the event that this track 2 is described as that land, I would ask that be taken out.
Not a problem, as far as the superintendent. That's why we need to work out all the details.
That's why we're here.
Right, we
Well,
don't
that
want to look
would-
up and something happened that, that we're having unintended here.
Could that speed things up also to find out that that is?
Oh, absolutely.
We already have the
that
deeds on
tomorrow.
this
This is the first that I've heard about that, and I'm glad you're bringing it to my attention. I'll have Mr. Powell look into that, and we'll research it with the title companies as well. Make sure that's the case, and if it is, then we'll shave that part off off the deed. As we would have done if you guys are still interested in a police station or anything like that. You know, we've already agreed to do that as well with you, so. That's what we find from
Put in a motion to approve resolution as presented.
unless you're asking for more comments, right?
Can we get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Madam President, I make a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we accept the resolution as presented. Are there any comments? No comments. Good. All in favor? Resolution accepted.
Ms. Wheeler, at this time, if the city would like to move, we have prepared a room for them. I know they want to continue to conduct their business. And also, since they're on that item on their agenda, does the city have any comments, something like that?
Well, actually, we need to, I need to get a motion that we lay this on the table until everything is said and done on the paperwork.
Okay.
Motion on the table.
I say,
Okay. Councilman Calvert has made the motion and has been seconded by Rita Rodriguez. Everyone in favor? Show of hand. Okay. This meeting will be adjourned.
Okay.
And we'll go down the hall.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
and thank y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all taking the time to be here with us. Thank you. Damn. Oh, absolutely.
They would have never got this done in the other facility.
Okay. Item 6, consider approval of consent agenda. Yeah. Item 6, consider approval of consent agenda.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve this one.
It is moved and second that we approve the consent agenda. Any comments? All in favor? Consent agenda approved. Item 7, superintendent's report.
Ms. Wheeler, members of the board, I do not have any particular item to report tonight, so I can be quiet.
Okay. Item 8, review TASD board policy 109.
This is the usual time that we hand the board a month in advance, the policy updates. And so we have that in your hands right now, and we will be asking you to approve and or make any comments you have on that at our next board meeting.
No motion.
Right.
Anything necessary at this time?
Is there any germane changes you want to make comment about?
Not anything tonight, that I want to bring you to. Most of this is already, pretty much done for us anyway, so there's very, very little local change in there.
Okay. Item 9, consider approval of the 2016-2017 financial audit reports.
Well, Ms. Wheeler, members of the board, obviously Ms. Gale is sitting out there, and once again, I want to tell you I'm very, very proud of the job that she has managed to do over the years as well as again this year. There's some comments on, we also have Mr. Greg Peterson here with us with our audit firm. He will make some comments if the board wants him to, and he may have some things to say after I'm done anyway. But as usual, I want to hit a few highlights for you. On page 7, if y'all will turn to page 7. And look at the top of the page under financial highlights. There's two things I want to bring to your position. The district's net position increased by $1,946,133. And the last one of those, Trey's gonna give me a kiss here. And the last one of those is that our total bonded debt decreased by nearly $504,000. So our debt is decreasing and our position is increasing. And so I'm very, very pleased to report those to you. If you'll now turn with me to page 9. The last statement on page 9, at the end of the current fiscal year, the district is able to report positive balances in all categories of net position. If you'll turn with me now to page '" Mr. Peterson's probably wondering, how the heck did he get through that thing that fast? Let's see. I've got them circled so I can get to them in a hurry here. I'm trying to find my next comment here for you. You can tell those first comments are hard to beat. So. Well, maybe I didn't get through it as fast as I thought I did. So hang on just a minute. Let me find what I'm looking for here. Should have picked that. That's what I should have done. Okay, on page 69, I believe it is the next comment that I have for you. At the bottom of the page, about the middle of the paragraph, beginning on the right-hand side with the word given. It says, given whatever limitations that they had during this audit, they did not identify any deficiencies in internal control of the financial reporting that they considered to be material weaknesses.
At the bottom, the last paragraph, yes.
And so a material weakness is something that, if not corrected or overcome, would sink your ship, basically. And so we don't have any of those. I am going to tell you, however, that we did identify a deficiency this year, and quite frankly, it's something that just slipped by me, and it slipped by Gail. She and I were both looking at it. We did have a deficiency this year because we let 2 vendors for the district get past the $50,000 mark, and we had not bid all of the things that we bid. Some of the things that they did, but all of the things that they did. Anytime you exceed $50,000 limits with vendors, you have to bid everything that they do. And we bid some of the things, but didn't bid everything. And so these 2 vendors, one of them being a restaurant supply that primarily our food service deals with, and then the second one being S.E. Maxwell here in town, who's almost a sole source provider for a lot of the contract work and a lot of the installation and concrete work and everything that we do. And so, quite frankly, I just let them get by me. I did warn Gail, and she and I were doing business with them, and we should have recognized that we exceeded the $50,000 limit and did not. We've already addressed it, already got it in place. Mr. Peterson, if you have any questions for him on that, we've already submitted a plan, and we're particularly dealing with those 2, because we didn't even come close with any other vendors. Particularly dealing with those 2 vendors, we'll just either list in the paper proposals and or we'll accept bids on everything that we do with them, knowing now that those are almost sole source providers for, and that will correct what we call a deficiency here. Not a weakness, not a material weakness, but it was a deficiency. So I want to bring that to your attention as well. I keep telling Gail, you can't be perfect every year, girl. And that was slipped by me as well as slipping by her. And I don't have anything else to tell you other than I'm very, very pleased that we were able to increase our fund balance again, even in spite of the major raises that you gave teachers this year and the purchases that we have made. And obviously, this increase in our fund balance is going to help us with the purchase of this new facility we have over there, help us offset those costs initially that first year, as well as if we have any type of capital outlay project in the next year or 2, this money will help us pay for it. And then we can look at perhaps building fund balance from some other angle, hopefully in the next few years. But we've stretched our budget pretty tight right now. And the only thing I will say to you, and Gail will probably reiterate this, is that I'm not real sure we're going to be able to repeat this kind of an increase in fund balance in any time in the near future for you. This is a tremendous increase in fund balance, and very, very proud to report it to you. Ms. Gail, Mr. Peterson, y'all have the floor.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll just make a few quick
Absolutely.
comments. So, Definitely want to say
Come on
thank
up
you.
if you want to, sir. We can't throw all the way back.
Sorry, let me get closer. No, I just want to thank the board for the opportunity to work with the district. It's a pleasure working with Miss Hanson. We couldn't do it without her and her crew, so thank you for all that you've done. I guess I'll just point out a couple things here. So on page 73, so this is kind of the report card for the audit.
Okay.
Is how we kind of look at it. So you can see at the top, we issue 2 opinions. We issue one on the financial statements and we issue one on your financial awards. And at the top you can see that we issued an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance you can receive from an audit. So that's saying your numbers have no material misstatements, to our knowledge. We had no material weaknesses. We discussed the significant deficiency, which all have policies in place to correct. There are no instances of non-compliance. So then we jump down to the federal award section. Again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. We issued another unmodified opinion, which again is the highest level of assurance you can receive. We performed a single audit over the fund for the Improvement of Education program, and your major program type threshold is $750,000, and the district qualified as a low-risk auditee. So, receiving unmodified opinions is a very good thing. It's kind of the A+ on the report card.
How did I miss this page?
Yeah, this is the one we need to take note on. And then just to expand upon the increase in fund balance, if we go over to let's go to page 20. So your total, just looking at the general fund, which is the primary operating fund of the district, so you had total expenditures of $11.8 million. And if you look over on page 18, if you flip back to page 18, you can see that you had unassigned fund balance of $6 million. So in essence, what you have is approximately 180 days of expenditures in unassigned fund balance. So most districts try to maintain 30 to 60 days. You're at 180 days. So that's another A+ rating there on that as well. So those are really all the comments I had. I'll happy to answer any questions if y'all have any.
Members of the board, please feel free to ask whatever questions you.
It's kind of hard to find a question. Don't do A++. Much less.
Well, thank you. Yes.
I'm just curious, from other districts that y'all been audited, are other districts having as much financial success as we are at this time? What's the percentage?
You know, it really depends. To have 180 days of unassigned fund balance is pretty unusual, or you know that you're on the higher tier of the districts that we audit. Most of them aren't having, I guess, monitoring their expenditures close enough, staying close enough to budget. And again, you can kind of, we can further see the reasons for this $1.9 million increase is by looking at the budget to actual results, which is on page 48. So you can this will really kind of give you even a more clear picture of how you're able to have these savings to increase your fund balance by $1.9 million. I think that's almost a 28% increase in your fund balance. So really just by being able to monitor these expenditures, I think it really goes back to having good folks in your financial office to monitor those.
Excellent.
Trey, you've been here a long time. Have you seen this kind of results?
And I would, I try to be careful because my tongue gets pretty sharp sometimes. But we were told a while ago that we weren't transparent and that things were. But anyway, in 2006, when I got on this board, we had a general fund balance of $135,000. That's all we had.
Yeah.
And they want to talk about us being transparent and not taking care of the school business. So, no, I really get stirred up whenever those kind of things. But I would like to say thank y'all very much.
Too late to say
I will say this, going on 7 years now that I've been able to serve, I really do appreciate the way that so many members of this district, both administration, faculty, board members, patrons, have approached this. Our district did have challenges, no doubt about that. But through a lot of hard work, a lot of tough decision-making it was required to do. And assembling a top-notch administration and faculty, we've been able to pull it out. And to those detractors that might say, those that have marginalized our district at one time, or might have looked forward to its demise. This work that's been done these last several years is paying off. I'm going to invite everybody that would like to get on this train that's moving, get on with us, because we're moving in the right direction and accelerated speed now.
I'm going to add something to what Trey said. We're very passionate about the kids. I can see how Trey can get really emotional, and we all get emotional, especially when it comes to kids, and especially when the message is out there and people are not coming here to find out. And it's out there. We're not hiding anything. It's all for the kids. That's it. I mean,
Look at
it's
their
it.
success.
Never, never give up. Our kids are worth it. That's it. Simple as that. So, I don't feel bad about that, Trey.
You want to sing?
Yep.
No, y'all covered it.
Gail hasn't wanted to step up because she feels personally responsible, but there's no one more personally responsible than I am. Between the two of us, we can remember most things. I tell her that all the time, and I tell Rhonda the same thing. We're going to remember most things, and every now and then, something's going to slip up on us. I don't think Gail has ever had a finding on an audit report before, and that's it's also part of building something. We tend to overlook something else, and we just let that slip up on us. But gosh, that's the worst thing that happens to me ever in my career, and I'm going to be very, very pleased as a superintendent. So that's something very, very minor, and we have corrected it already and moved on. And so
I think both of y'all have done a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
Everybody has.
Everybody, yeah. Okay, can I get a motion to?
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion to accept the audit report as presented.
I will second that.
It's been moved and second that we accept the audit report as presented. All in favor? Audit report accepted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
we'll get you a copy of that resolution tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, item 10, consider casting votes for board of directors of the Houston County Appraisal District for 2018-2019.
Ms. Wheeler, Board of Education, you guys in the past have cast your votes for 2 candidates. I have made that a recommendation only because that's what y'all have done in the past. If that is your preference, I would recommend that you continue that practice. If that's not your preference, then of course the board can establish any practice in voting for this board of directors that you would like to establish. And so in the past, I believe you have cast all your votes. I believe a little over 1,000. I think you split those votes and give one to, I believe, Miss Kathy Calvert, and the other one's to Red Kitchen. I believe is what you have done in the past to ensure that Crockett ISD, or the Crockett area, which contains our ISD, has 2 of those individuals on that appraisal board. And that's what you've done in the past. That has been your discussion, and obviously now that it is your decision as to what to do with that.
Do anybody have any differences or changes?
I'd just like to add what Mr. Myers said both of these members are residents of our school district itself. And I'm sure they have a vested interest in seeing the success of not only the city, but the district as well.
Any other comments? Can I get a motion?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to accept the candidates as presented.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept 2 candidates that was presented. Are you in favor?
So let me get a clarification on that. It's 523 votes for each of those
Yes.
individuals.
That's
Correct.
correct.
North Carolina, Calvin, and Lynn Kitchen. Okay,
Yeah.
we've got it.
Okay, at this time, we will move into executive session.
This program is being brought to you by Young's Welding. For your truck accessory, gateway, or all your other welding needs, be sure to call Young's Welding at 936-544-7432.